Welcome to Morgantown on Patrol. I'm Officer Gina Stewart. On today's show, we're going to be looking at the winter road conditions, things that you as a driver are going to need to be on the lookout for to keep yourself safe out on the streets through the winter time. Then we're going to be having an interview with Judy Smith from the Rape and Domestic Violence Center and Officer Troy Ball from the Morgantown Police Department. And last but not least, we're going to be going into your communities and looking at the statistics, the things that have happened in your area over the month of December. So make sure you stay tuned. Let's talk a little bit about these wintry conditions that we're seeing outside here today with the snow, freezing rain, and of course with that, you're definitely going to have the ice. What do you as a driver need to do to prepare yourself? Not only with your driving, but things that you should be keeping in your vehicle just in case you get stranded somewhere along the way. First, let's talk about the driving. You need to make sure that you're driving at a safe speed. Oftentimes I see people with four-wheel drives that think just because they have a four-wheel drive vehicle, they can just go the speed limit or faster and it not matter. But one thing they're not remembering, just because you have a four-wheel drive doesn't mean you're going to be able to stop that vehicle if you're on ice. It doesn't matter what kind of vehicle you have. If you're on ice, it's hard to stop. So you need to slow that speed down. Take that into account to try to make sure that you're not involved in an accident or that you would happen to cause someone else to be in an accident. The next thing that you definitely need to be looking for when it comes to braking. I know one of my pet peeves when I'm out on a snowy road. You have people that will constantly slam on their brakes. That's one of the last things that you want to do if you're out in snowy or icy conditions, because when you slam on that brake, that causes your car to go into a skid if there's ice there, which definitely means you're not going to have control of your vehicle and you're not going to be able to stop. So if you're going to be braking, if you have the ABS brakes, what the manufacturer usually suggests is that you hold your foot down on the brake. You don't pump it if you have ABS brakes. If you don't have ABS brakes, then you lightly pump the brake to make sure that you don't cause your vehicle to go into a skid. But the big factor, make sure you're going at a safe speed. Because if you're going at a safe speed, you're not going to have to worry about that braking as much, because you're going to leave yourself enough time to be able to slow down safely before you get to another vehicle. Other things to look for, if you do get into a skid, what do you do if your car starts sliding? You need to steer in to that slide. So if the rear end of your vehicle starts going toward the right, you steer into the right. Now, I'm not talking take your steering wheel and roll it as fast as you can, because that's going to cause you to lose control of your vehicle. So be gentle when you do it, but make sure that you steer into that slide. Another thing for you to look for, if your car starts spinning, two options. If you're on a hill, you might need to speed up a little bit because you're going uphill to get up without the spin. But if you're on a flat surface, try to slow down a little bit and see if that pulls you out of the spin. If it doesn't, then increase your speed. If you have a rear-wheel drive vehicle, you and I both know it doesn't go very well in the wintertime. So if you have chains that you can put on that vehicle, that's going to help you tremendously. Some things that you need to keep in your vehicle while you're driving, a shovel. That way, if you ever get stuck in a ditch and need to plow yourself out, you'll have that shovel on hand. They have the four-way chips that they sell around. There's ice, stones, things of that nature you can keep in the back of your truck. Not only does that help you with traction if you keep it in your trunk, but also if you do get stuck somewhere, you might need something for your tires to grab a hold of to get traction to pull you out of that ditch that you're in. So that's something good to have on hand. Warm extra clothes, just in case if while you're out you're getting wet, you have clothes that you can change into. Or maybe you're like some people, they leave the house with just a heavy sweater and jeans because they don't think something's going to happen. Then when it does and they're stuck outside, they get extremely cold very fast. So keep a spare coat, gloves, a toboggan, something like that in your trunk. So if you need it, it's there. You can also keep a blanket. That way, if you get stuck somewhere and nobody's coming by to help you, you can bundle up with that until somebody comes through. Cell phones. Make sure you keep phone numbers with you in your car for your cell phone, for tow companies, for your local police departments if they're not on a 911 system. Anything like that that's going to assist you in your time of need. But again, the big thing that I'll stress, drive safely. Don't be in a hurry during these wintry days, because it's going to end up you being involved in an accident or someone else, and you're not going to get where you're going. Take care and drive safely. And now we're going to be interviewing Judy Smith from the Rape and Domestic Violence Center and Officer Troy Ball from the Morgantown Police Department. I'd like to welcome both of you here today. Thank you for taking the time and coming in. What we're here to talk about today is domestic violence, and unfortunately it's something that plagues America, and it seems to be in every denomination, in every income bracket that's out there. It's a problem that we have. What I want to try to do today is to let the community know what the police department and the Rape and Domestic Violence Center is doing for the community, what services that you can provide. So if anybody's in this situation, they'll know how to get out. So we'll start with you, Judy. Judy, let's start with you. Could you tell us about the services that the Rape and Domestic Violence Center provides to the community?
Well, the service that we're most known for, of course, is shelter for battered women and their children. But we also do a 24-hour hotline. We do advocacy with women seeking legal remedies through the courts. And we do counseling, short-term, and some longer than just crisis counseling. So we do a lot of court work. Takes up most of our time.
Now, you said you had a 24-hour hotline. What's the phone number that I would call if I would need to get a hold of somebody through that hotline?
292-5100. It's the only number we advertise, so everyone has the number.
Everybody has the number, and hopefully it'll be one that will stick in their minds. Domestic violence, for the longest time it was so accepted in families and throughout the country that this was a means of controlling your partner. How have things changed over the years, say over the last 20 years? How have things evolved, and what are the beliefs and attitudes today? Have they really changed that much?
I would like to say they have, but I don't think that they have. I think we're more open about domestic violence. People talk about it more. It's not as accepted in a widespread way. But there's still many people who believe all those same things about men should be in control of the family and should exert whatever they need to in order to maintain that control.
Our court systems. When I first started here 12 years ago, when I would arrest somebody for domestic violence, it was very rare that they would receive any penalty of jail time for first or second offense. Has that changed any over the last 12 years?
Yes, there has been a change in that. Domestic violence, domestic battery and assault has been established as a crime now in West Virginia, so it's not always a civil order. Women can obtain family protection orders to have the man removed from the home, and so that she can have use of the car if she needs it, whatever she needs in order to maintain a household for herself and the kids. But it used to be the only remedy unless there was an assault charge by the police. So that has made a big difference, and men are more often charged and serve time.
Troy, the role of the law enforcement officer. Tell me a little bit about what you do when you arrive on scene, what you're going to be looking for, and what you need to be prepared for.
Well, it's supposed to start hopefully before you even get to the door. The actual first line of investigative procedure is a 911 call. They record the calls as they come in, and hopefully can record some good evidence to be used later. Past that, when we show up, if things work well in our favor, it's nice to get near the house and try to listen, maybe see what's going on before we get in there. Of course, things are going to change once they find out we're there. Once we get in the house, it's a matter of prioritizing keeping people safe, and then simply breaking them apart, take them into different rooms or whatever, and trying to sift through what's happened, determine, if we can, who the primary aggressor is, and then take the appropriate action.
Very good. Now, I remember the horror stories that I had when I first started working here of police officers. The main way they would handle domestic violence calls, one, of course, the separation. But then they would tell the aggressor, go take a walk, just cool down. How has that changed over the years?
I think it's probably changed a lot. It wasn't that way when I started here. I've only been here for 6 years. But things have gotten better, I think, in just the time that I've gotten here, or since I've been here, through education, law enforcement officers, and the laws make it very easy for us to make an arrest. It's a lot easier to make an arrest than it is to not. And if you're able to establish who is the problem and who needs to be arrested, you can make the arrest without first obtaining a warrant, even if you didn't witness those things. So it really is just much easier to do it that way. It's not. I think it takes some of the frustration out of it.
Yes, it does, and it helps it to be a more successful process as well because
Absolutely.
of that. Another big change that we've had in the laws, it used to be where the victim was the one that came forward with the complaint and the warrant for
That's
the
right.
arrest. How has that changed?
That has changed. We can make the arrest. Officers around the state can make the arrest even if the victim doesn't want to comply. If they have the criteria, or if the situation meets the criteria of the state code, they can arrest whether the victim wants them to or not. And then it goes beyond that. You can prosecute without the victim's assistance. So it's not a matter of, well, this person won't participate, so there's really nothing we can do here. We can take it upon ourselves, and should, to make the decision of what's going to happen.
Arrive on scene, and you go to arrest the aggressor that's there. Is there ever a chance that this victim might come at you and try to attack you for taking away the aggressor? And if that's so, why do you think that happens?
Well, that's a very real possibility, and that's how people tend to get hurt, is they don't see the victim as a possible threat. And you have one of two things that could happen. They could either attack you or they could attack the perpetrator. They could attack you for a lot of different reasons. Maybe they don't believe that what you're doing is right. They've grown up in that type of environment. Sometimes it's to show alliance to that person, because the best we can do is take them before the courts, and if the courts release them on a bond or something like that, we can't be there all the time. And this is their shot to gain favor sometimes with the batterer. Or they may see it as their opportunity to get a shot in without that person being able to hurt them back, and they may go after the person you're arresting while you're there.
So it's an extremely volatile situation, one that you have to keep your eyes open the whole time you're there.
Absolutely, from start to finish. You have to watch everybody.
Protective orders. We all know they're available. Are they foolproof, Troy?
No, they're not foolproof. It's a piece of paper. It's something that helps law enforcement. I think if there's a problem that needs to be dealt with, it gives us something that we can do. But a person can walk through the order and as they say, and continue to harm her. But it is an extra tool. It's an asset for law enforcement to help the victim out.
Now, if I'm a victim of domestic violence, I go to the magistrate court, I get this protective order. What are some steps that I need to do to protect myself? Should I carry that protective order with me all the time? Will it protect me if I go to another state?
You do need to carry the copy with you all the time, and of course your local agency should have a copy on file, and you do need to take it from state to state. It's the same no matter where you go because of the full faith and credit laws. If another person comes here from out of state and has a protective order and it's violated, they can receive services according to their order, even if those services are not services that are normally given here in this state. And the same happens if you take an order from here to another state.
Even with the education that we have, there are still people out in the community that don't understand why the victim stays in this battering relationship. Tell us a little bit about that. Why does the victim stay?
I can give you a whole list of reasons. One of the biggest is fear. Women fear that if they leave, he'll become even more enraged and angry and try to win her back or bring her back one way or the other. Maybe he's made threats that if she ever leaves, he'll find her and kill her. And sometimes that has happened with domestic violence cases, and people always hear about those cases. Also, economics keeps many women in domestic violence situations. If they don't have jobs or training, or maybe they don't have the confidence to believe that they can support themselves and the kids without the abuser. Because self-esteem has been chipped away for years and years often, domestic violence victims just don't have any belief that they can get out of the situation.
Judy, you made mention that an advocate will go with the victim to court. Tell us a little bit about that process. What will the advocate do to assist the victim?
Well, mostly by giving information so that women can feel empowered and understand the process. We explain what will happen in court, give them a brief rundown of the whole process, and then someone will be with them during that time if they wish. And sometimes just to have someone in the courtroom or even out in the hallway that you know is on your side and understands what went on makes a big difference.
Yes, it does. And I know that one thing I've had with some of the victims that I have talked to, oftentimes even your own family at first is for the aggressor because they don't want to believe that something like this could happen. And oftentimes our DVIC and the police officers are the only ones initially on the victim's side. So it's extremely important for you all to have these roles and to be there for the victim so they can succeed with this process. The Batterers Intervention Program. Tell us a little bit about that and what you're trying to do.
Well, it's a 33-session educational tool, hopefully to help batterers change their behaviors and beliefs.
And if I'm a batterer and I don't show up for class, what happens to me?
Well, we break the 33 sessions into 2 sections. So during the first 17 weeks, a man can miss 2 sessions, and during the second 16 weeks, he can miss 2. But beyond that, he's terminated from the program.
Troy, if you could, explain to us your role with the Batterers Intervention Program.
My role with that is as a co-facilitator with Judy Smith. We've been to various trainings to learn how to teach a course. It's a course designed by the Duluth Project in Minnesota. And like she said, it's 33 weeks long. It's broken up into sections, and we go through piece by piece and try to model appropriate behavior between the two of us as working together as partners, as male and female.
So they can see that the woman can be equal to the male and it's okay.
That's right, and that's part of it, and part of it is also holding them accountable for the behavior that they've done. Part of that is what Judy said about the attendance. They have to show up or they're referred back to the court, and when they show up, they have to participate. In order to do that, they're going to have to admit to some of the things that they've done and admit their own faults and accept sole responsibility for what they have done.
Is that a hard task for you and Judy to do?
It's very difficult. The guys do not want to be there, and they're resilient to the change, and they don't necessarily like what we're teaching. They don't believe it.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, other than I think probably the only thing we haven't mentioned is if you would like to volunteer to be in the Batterers Intervention Prevention course, you can. You do not have to be court-ordered.
So if you feel that you have a problem,
if you would like to make a change in your life, you feel that that's a problem area for you, then call the same number for RDVIC, and they can hook you up with a batterers class.
is there anything that you would like to add, Judy?
Well, I urge people to call our number instead of being afraid or wondering if we'll tell them what to do or make judgments, because that's not why we're there. We're there to help people do what they need to do to be safe, and that's what we emphasize from beginning to end. We do a lot of safety planning with people, so they just need to call our number.
Judy, if you could, tell us one more time what the phone number is for the Rape and Domestic Violence Center.
292-5100.
Thank you both very much for your time.
Thank you.
And now let's take a look at the statistics. What's been going on in your area, and what arrests have the Morgantown Police Department been making over the month of December? There were 11 shoplifting arrests made and 16 DUI arrests. As for calls for service, domestic disputes, police officers responded to 5. Breaking and enterings, the police officers responded to 2, both of those being on Earl Corps Road. Larceny from vehicles, and this is one that you hear about every single month. People, don't leave anything of value in your cars. People will see it, they will bust into your vehicle, and they will take it. So take that stuff out of there. We had 16 reported for the month of December, and the streets those occurred on: Walnut Street, Van Voorst Road, High Street, Burrow Street, McLean Avenue, Clay Street, Dormont Street, Clinton Street, Sabreton Avenue, Ridgeway Avenue, Chestnut Street, Pennsylvania Avenue, Wright Street, McKinley Avenue, Hodges Street, and Riverview Court. One of the biggest things people want to look into in the month of December are the burglaries. Of course, that's because the students leave, and we usually see a rise of burglaries in the student sections. And if you pay attention to the streets that I make mention of, you will see that the majority of the burglaries reported for the month of December did actually happen in the student section. So let's get to those. We had 24 reported burglaries for the month of December. Those happened on Park Street, Sherman Avenue, Beverly Avenue, Grant Avenue, Falling Run Road, Hillcrest Street, Lawrence Avenue, University Avenue, North Spruce, Wabash Street, Charles Avenue, Coben Avenue, Belmar Avenue, Richwood Avenue, Dormont Street, University Avenue, North High Street, White Avenue, Stewart Street, Highland, and Price Street. So those are the statistics that we have for the month of December. Thank you for tuning into this edition of Morgantown on Patrol. In future episodes, we'll be meeting with Herky Bender and talking about the garbage in the area and some of the things that you need to be looking out for as a homeowner or a renter. We'll also be meeting with the new sergeant in the detective division, Phil Scott, to see what's going on with the detectives, what cases they're working on, and how you can help solve some of our local crimes that are going on. One thing that I would like to ask for you to do, we've been doing this show now for a little over a year, and we would like to have some feedback from you, the citizens of Morgantown, letting us know what you think of our show, as well as any show ideas that you might have for us, things that you want to learn more about. So if you would, you can put Gina Stewart on the front of the envelope, 300 Spruce Street, Morgantown, West Virginia, 26508, or you can always send an email to morgantown.com to Jeff McCorsky. Let us know what you're thinking and what you'd like to see on our show. Again, thank you for tuning into Morgantown on Patrol, where you are part of the solution.